And all of a sudden you hear, don't you worry, child, 'cause heaven's got a put. And then 4 sets of fangs just sink into your neck. You're like, don't you worry, child, 'cause heaven's got... Unreal. And so this is a story from the New York Post that goes, 3 women were diagnosed with HIV after vampire facials at an unlicensed U.S. spa. You heard me correctly. 3 women were diagnosed with HIV, not HPV. The P and the I make a huge difference. HIV after vampire facials at an unlicensed U.S. spa. The word unlicensed, I feel, is redundant here. You don't need to say that a place is unlicensed if it's giving people HIV. The absolute minimum for getting licensed at a spa should be, you guys don't have any AIDS blood lying around here, do you? Sorry, we're required to ask. You guys don't have any just HIV blood spatter hanging out at your spa, do you? I feel like you don't need to say that a place is unlicensed if they're just slinging out HIV diagnoses. So the article reads that at least 3 women contracted HIV after receiving a trendy skincare treatment in New Mexico, according to a detailed report of the outbreak investigation. In a new report from the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the agency shared details of how several people were likely infected with HIV after being given, quote, vampire facials at the now shuttered VIP spa in Albuquerque, New Mexico. VIP in Albuquerque, New Mexico is like saying I flew first class to Boston from New York. It's like, who gives a shit? It's VIP in Albuquerque. The first case of HIV was linked to the salon and discovered in 2018, which prompted the New Mexico Department of Health, NMDOH, to offer free testing to clients of the facility. The middle-aged woman had no history of recent blood transfusions, injectable drug use, or sexual contact with an HIV-positive individual, but she did report receiving a vampire facial. The other reports came from women who also had vampire facials in 2018. One was diagnosed with early-stage HIV in 2019, and the other last year when she wound up in the hospital with severe symptoms. There are people who had no known risks of HIV acquisition, said CDC epidemiologist Ann Stadelman-Behar. It was a shock to them, definitely. When is HIV not a shock? Who's hearing an HIV diagnosis from a doctor going, cool, anything else or just HIV? Okay, got it, yeah. No, so you're just telling me today that the only thing wrong with me, the reason why you made me come in person was to tell me I have HIV? Are you serious? It's not a shock at all. It's always a shock. Come on. HIV, AIDS. Oh, I don't care how much of a slut you are. I don't care how many needles you've been fucking pricking into different portals of your soul. If a person has a clipboard in front of you and they have a doctor's outfit on, they don't even need to be a real doctor. If there's just someone dressed like a doctor within 100 yards of me that says the word HIV, my soul goes, huh? What? Me? Or, oh, thank God, it's that guy. All right. It's always a shock. The article goes on to describe a vampire facial, which is a procedure where a patient's blood is drawn and the plasma is separated from the blood cells, and then the plasma is injected back into the face using microneedles. Those touting the technique, including celebrities like Gwyneth Paltrow and Kim Kardashian, claim better looking skin. I'd rather get bit by an actual vampire than get a vampire facial, because even if the vampire has AIDS, we're both dead anyway. My skin will be perfect because I'm immortal. If I had a friend that said, hey, you want to do a spa day? Let's go do sauna. Let's go do cold tub. Let's get a drink and then let's get some vampire facials. I say, put on the brakes, rewind a little bit. And instead of vampire facials, let's go into that club from Blade, the first Blade, where there's blood raining down from the ceilings. And then a human manages to make his way into the club. And then all the vampires start going crazy. And the human's like, what's going on? What's going on? And then he realizes he's bait. I'd rather be the bait than walk into a spa and say, yeah, I'm here for the vampire facial. Are you kidding me? I hate the idea of a Vietnamese woman putting a cheese grater close to my foot, let alone a syringe taking blood out of my face, putting it God knows where, and then injecting it back into my body. And it has nothing to do with Vietnamese. if I'm gonna have any race of people holding a cheese grater to my body, it better be some form of Asian. God forbid if another white person gets within 5 feet of me of a cheese grater when we're not in the kitchen, I will kill you, end you. I don't trust you at all. Give it back to the Vietnamese. Haven't we done enough to Vietnam? Let them at least control the, what do you call it? The thing where you get the cheese grated off your feet. That's how often I go to spas. I'm like, yeah, give me the cheese grater treatment. The thing where they put your dead skin into a bucket and it looks like a bunch of Parmesan truffle. Give me that. I'd rather take my chances in the club from Blade, because that way, at least if shit goes down, I can at least talk my way into saying, hey, I want better skin. You want some blood. Don't kill me fully. I don't want to, because that's also something that makes me angry, is that sometimes in vampire movies, someone will get bitten and then they'll die, and then another person will get bitten and then they'll be a vampire. And it's like, which one is it? Am I dead? Are you killing me or are you turning me? And so if I'm getting turned in the club in Blade, I'd rather have that. I want to be, what better way to get turned as a vampire than to have like fucking Swedish House Mafia blasting in the background? You know that Swedish House Mafia song? It's like that one. I was about to say, and we'll fade into darkness. But I know that's not Swedish House Mafia. Come on. What is the Swedish House Mafia song I'm thinking of? It's not one. It's, God, this is going to piss me off now. It's the other one. Swedish House Mafia. Don't You Worry, Child. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Imagine being in the club in Blade. There's blood spraying down from every faucet in the ceiling. It's just covering your face. People are half naked. Girls are twerking on you. Their fangs are out. And all of a sudden you hear, don't you worry, child, 'cause heaven's got a put. And then 4 sets of fangs just sink into your neck. You're like, don't you worry, child, 'cause heaven's got... Unreal. I'd pay at least $85 per hour for that. Give me that treatment. Give me the Blade treatment. And then I become a vampire. I don't want to die again. Turn me. Don't kill me. Also, I love how we're coming out the other side of a deadly pandemic. And some people are still like, let's open a spa with a bunch of blood and needles lying around, and we'll just inject people's blood that was already in their body back into them. What could go wrong? We're not going to create the next super virus by taking out people's blood, storing it in vials in a non-scientific setting, a non-laboratory setting, and then just hoping we grab the right vial to inject it back into their face. We can't spread disease like that. Are you kidding me? No one's gonna fucking get HIV. Oh, 7 people did already, and we've been open for a week. Well, we didn't expect 1 a day to get HIV. I mean, that's a little bit more than we were expecting. The article goes on to say that the CDC's report said that while the transmission likely occurred at the salon, the source of the contamination remains a mystery. At the time of the investigation, NMDOH epidemiologist Dr. Michael Landon told Coat News that they were shocked by how VIP Spa was storing, handling, and disposing of needles. Unlabeled tubes of blood were found on a rack on a kitchen counter, as well as in the kitchen fridge, next to personal food and other injectables. Investigators also found unwrapped syringes on counters, in trash cans, and in drawers. That's always good. That's good. That's ideal. When there's mystery blood next to the muffins. That's what you call an ideal, safe laboratory, non-transmittory setting, whatever that non-transmitting setting of AIDS from one body to another. When you go into the fridge and you're like, is that my fruit punch or is that Stacy's face blood? That's the type of places. That's how you should be storing it. Nothing could go wrong. I also like I don't like, but it is a thing that's been happening lately when rumor becomes reality, or like when crazy theories, these crazy conspiracies become reality, like the world is becoming a joke of itself. Because I remember years ago, there was a scare where people were going around music festivals with needles that had AIDS or HIV or other diseases on the tip of the needle, and then going around and pricking festival goers. And that was a real fear. Like I remember going to Lollapalooza back in 2017, And there were these articles going around, and obviously it was on Reddit, but there were mainstream sources that were posting about this conspiracy that people were like these, rabble rousers with AIDS needles were going around music festivals with thousands of people, and they were just going through crowds with these infected needles and pricking random people in the crowd, and people would get pricked and they'd be like, oh, what the fuck was that? And I remember actually being somewhat nervous about it when I was going to Lollapalooza. Now, when the alcohol and Molly and Adderall kicked in, that was no longer a thought in my mind. Then it was like, who has the needles? Where the needles at, bruh? That Molly's starting to wear off, and I'm gonna wear something else into my bloodstream if you got it. So I remember that theory, like that, and in the back of my mind, I knew like this is complete bullshit. But the fact that it's there freaks you out a little bit, where you're in a crowd and you're watching Bass Nectar or you're watching Odessa or whoever, and then you feel like a prick on your arm and you're like, what the fuck was that? And just the knowledge in the back of your head that that's a conspiracy that's out there freaks you out a little bit. And now, fast forward 8 years, and people are paying for the service that gave them HIV through an infected needle. Insane. Obviously, it's two different situations where one's a music festival, one's a spa, but like they're both these things that you would not associate at all with getting infected with an AIDS virus. And now it's like, because of lack of regulation, because of just a series of unfortunate events, Lemony Snicket, which is not the first thought that would come to my mind if I got AIDS. Imagine the doctors telling you have HIV. He's like, all right, well, before I give you the medical information, I'm just going to let out a Lemony Snicket. You have AIDS. And you're like, why didn't you just tell me I had AIDS? Why'd you need to do it? And he's like, oh, well, I like to harmonize before I give out the medical information. And right now I'm reading a series of unfortunate events. So last week it would have been Hermione Granger. You have herpes, but not you. That was just what I told someone else. So my point is, rumor becomes reality, and it is crazy. It also makes you think about, like, imagine going to an HIV support group. It must be so embarrassing to go to one of these HIV AIDS support groups, and everyone's going around how they got it. Like, people are like, oh, I got it from a gangbang orgy. I had 8 cocks sticking in every hole of my body. And someone else is like, oh, I got AIDS from sharing heroin needles. And it gets to your turn and you're like, I got it from this place called Vampire Blossom Spa. They give facial treatments. And everyone in the room is just like, pussy, lemony pussy. Yeah, that's embarrassing. You can't show up to an AIDS support group without a good story. That's something my grandfather used to tell me.